All right, so today we're going to talk about lesson 10-1, an introduction to systems. Okay, systems actually stands for systems of equations, is what you're going to hear Mr. Johnson say it a lot, which means you have two or more equations. Okay? Solving a system of equations means finding all the solutions that are common to the equations, or means where they intersect at. Okay? Very key piece of information. Your solutions are going to be where they intersect at. A system is a set of equations or inequalities joined by the word "and" that together describe a single situation. The two equations at the beginning of this chapter describing the winning Olympic times of men and women in the 100-meter freestyle events are an example of a system of equations. You can see those in your book. Here's what a system looks like. You have a bracket, and it contains two or more equations. So it could look something like this: y equals 2x plus 3. Remember, that's a linear equation. And another one could be y equals a negative x plus 12. Okay? If you were to graph these would graph on a coordinate plane and would intersect at some point. That point where they intersect at, say for instance it looked like this, that point where they intersect at is going to give you a solution. Okay? The solution to a system of equations is always an ordered pair. It's your x value, comma your y value. It's an ordered pair. Get used to that. Your answer is going to be an ordered pair. X comma y. If you look at example 1, it says consider the system. Y equals 3x minus 7 and 2y minus 2x equals 10. A says, verify that the ordered pair 6, 11 is a solution to the system. So we want to show that that works. Well, we're going to do this by hand. 6 is my x value. 11 is my y value. So in order for 6, 11 to work, it has, when you put 6 in for x up here and 11 in for y up here, those have to equal each other once it's all said and done. And it has to work for the second equation. So let's try that out. So A, y is 11. We want to know, does it equal 3 times x is 6 minus 7? Well, if you do your math on the right-hand side, 18 minus 7, that equals 11. Does 11 equal 11? Yes. So it works for the first equation. Let's try the second equation. 2 times y. What's y? Y is 11. Minus 2 times x. What's x? That is 6. Has to equal 10. Do the math on the left-hand side. 2 times 11 is 22. Minus 2 times 6 is 12. Does that equal 10? Well, yeah, 22 minus 12 is 10. Does 10 equal 10? Yes. So we just showed in A that that works for both of those equations. So yes, 6, 11 is a solution. B says, show that 1, negative 4 is not a solution. to the system. Remember, it has to work on both. So let's try it on the first one. Here's my x, here's my y. Y is a -4. Equals 3 times x. What's x? 1. Minus 7. Well, 3 times 1 is 3, minus 7. Does a -4 equal a -4? Yes, it does. It works out here. Let's try the second equation. 2 times y. What's y? A -4. Minus 2 times x. X is 1. And does it equal 10? Well, 2 times a -4 is a -8. Okay? And then I have minus 2 times 1 is 2. Does that equal 10? Well, -8 minus 2 is a -10. Does a -10 equal 10? No. So we just showed that 1 comma -4 is not a solution because it did not work for this equation. It worked for this one, but it did not work for this equation. Okay? It has to work for both of them in order for it to be a solution. Moving along, solving systems by graphing. Your calculator is going to do you great justice in this case. Okay? It says you can find the solutions to a system of equations with two variables by graphing each equation and finding the coordinates of the points of intersection, still getting your x comma y as your solution. Let's look at example 2. A second grade class has 23 students. There are 5 more boys than girls. Solve the systems of equations to determine how many boys and how many girls are in class. Okay? Well, I'm going to let x equal the number of boys because we don't know how many there are yet. I'm going to let y be the number of girls. Okay? So I'm going to make my equations. Well, I know that boys plus girls, assuming we don't have any aliens in class, I assume that boys plus girls has to equal 23. Okay? So number of boys, x, plus number of girls, y, has to equal 23. Okay? Now, the other key piece of information. There are 5 more boys than girls. Girls is my y. Okay? There are 5 more boys than girls. So if you think about this, 5 more boys than girls. So that means if we have 10 boys, there is only 5 girls because there are 5 more boys than girls. So how would you write that as your equation? Okay? How would you write that as your equation? Well, if girls is y, okay, girls, y equals, okay, the number of boys. How many boys do we have? Well, we have x boys. So to find out your girls, this is what we're doing, we're finding out girls, you would take the number of boys and subtract 5. Why would you say subtract 5? Well, because if I put 10 in here, 10 minus 5 is 5. Is that how many girls I would have? Yes. Okay. So the girls' equation is girls equal the number of boys minus 5. Okay. Now we have our 2 equations. In order to put them on your calculator, your 2 equations have to be solved for y. This one is already solved for y. This one is not. So down here, I'm going to solve for y. Well, the inverse of adding x is subtracting x. So y equals 23, and if I subtract x to the other side, gives me a minus x. So my two equations now I'm going to use are y equals 23 minus x, which is what this one was. And then I'm going to take this one and put it in here because that's already solved for y. Y equals x minus 5. I got my two equations. I go to my calculator. Y equals 23 minus x. You don't have to type in the y. The y is already here. I'm going to type this into my y2. X minus 5. Okay? Now, because of my y-intercept is 23, you might want to make your window bigger than 23. So I need to make my y max like 25. Okay? Just so I can kind of see the whole graph. I'm going to hit graph. And as you can see, if you notice here, I can't see where those two lines intersect at. I know they are, but I can't see where it goes. So I got to make my x max bigger. I got to go further down the line. So my x max has to be bigger. So I'm going to make it like 20. I hit graph. And now I can see where they intersect at. So if I draw my cursor over here, and I go to the point where these two things intersect at, I think I'm about right on it. But as you can see, my x value is pretty close to 14. So 14 and my y value would be 9. Why am I rounding it? Because you can't have 13.9 people. You can't have 8.8 people. So my x value, if you go here, my x value is going to be 14. My y value is going to be 9. So let's write that as a coordinate point. My x value is 14. My y value is 9. Okay? That means we have 14 boys and 9 girls. Let's see if that works. If I put 14 in here for x, 23 minus 14, does that equal 9? Yes, it does. How about if I put 14 in here? Does 14 minus 5 equal 9? Yes, it does. Okay? So this checks out. There are 14 boys and 9 girls in that class. Here's a graph of the equation that they showed you. Notice how it intersects at a point, like I showed you on our calculator. But what I'm always familiar with is, and how I always write my answer, is as an ordered pair. There are 3 other ways that you can write your answer. Okay? You can state it as an ordered pair, identifying the variables. You can say x comma y equals 14 comma 9. Okay? You can write it like that. I think that's a waste of time. A lot of times I just write it just like this. You can do it by naming the variable. So you can say x equals 14 and y equals 9. Okay? Or you can write it as a set of ordered pairs. You can make the set and put your ordered pair in the box, signifying that that is the only point that will work for those two equations. As I said, this is the #1 way. You are going to write it, and I'm going to write it. I just want to make sure that you know that there are other ways. Systems with no solutions. There are systems of equations with no solutions. Okay? These lines are normally what we call are parallel. That means parallel lines have no intersection. They will never touch each other. Okay? Parallel lines, two equations that are parallel to each other, are the ones with no solutions. If you get two lines that are parallel with no solutions, we call that the empty set, or what is called the null set. And how you signify that is you just make two brackets that either shows that there's nothing in it, okay, it's empty, hence empty set, no solution, or you make a little circle with the cross through it, and that signifies no solution as well. Okay? We call this the null set or the empty set. Okay? That is for systems with no solutions. These are equations that do not intersect anywhere. Let's look at example 3. Find all solutions to the system. Y equals a negative x plus 4 and y equals a negative x minus 2. Okay? If you look, both these are solved for y, so that's fine. I can go ahead and put this on my calculator. The first one is a negative x plus 4. The second one is a negative x minus 2. I'm going to graph these. As you can see, these are two lines that do not intersect. These will never cross. Okay? Therefore, they are parallel, which means no solution. So our solution to this problem is the empty set or the null set. That is what you would type on your paper. The empty set or the null set. Okay? All that means is there is not a solution to this problem. Another way to notice if you have two parallel lines is your slopes. Your slopes are found right here. Okay? The number in front of x. Notice this is a negative 1. This is also a negative 1. If these two things are the same and they have different y-intercepts, you automatically know they are parallel. And then you can straight go and say this is the empty set or it is the null set. Cost and revenue equations. Everybody wants to know where this stuff is used. If you are going to own your own business, or if you got a job that's based on knowing where your break-even point is, it's very important to know linear equations and your cost and revenue equations. Okay? In manufacturing, a cost equation describes the cost of Y making X products. Okay? A cost equation, it costs you so much, like rent for a place, employee salaries, which must be paid regardless of the number of products made. You have to pay people to work for you. Sorry about that. You have to pay people to work for you. That's something you have to do. Variable costs are such things as materials and shipping, which depend on how many products are made, because you're not going to send out 50 products if you only made 10 products. Okay? So you're not going to pay shipping for 50 if you only made 10 products. The total of the fixed and the variable cost is the amount of money the business pays out each month. Okay? They're throwing that money out. Okay? That's how much it costs to run their business. A revenue equation describes how much the business earns by selling the products. So Coca-Cola makes all different kinds of soft drinks. Okay? It cost them so much money to make the cola, it cost them so much money to ship the cola, etc., etc., etc. Paid the workers to sell the cola, whatever. they had to set up a break-even point or a revenue equation to find out how much they need to sell Coca-Cola for in order to either break even or make money, which, as you know, in all business cases, they're out to make money. A break-even point is the point at which the revenue and the total costs are the same. That means you made just enough to keep everything running. Okay? This point tells the manufacturer how many items must be sold in order to make a profit. So the break-even point, if he gets right to the break-even point, he's even. He's not losing money. If he makes more than that, then the business is going to be making the profit, which is what we all want to do. Let's go and look at this example 4. A manufacturer of t-shirts, so we're making t-shirts, has fixed costs of $8,000, so it cost him $8,000, and the cost to produce each t-shirt is $3.40. Therefore, the cost Y to produce X t-shirts is given by Y equals $8,000 plus $3.40 times X. It cost $8,000 probably for the facilities, and then it cost $3.40 per t-shirt to make. So if I made 10 t-shirts, it's going to cost me $34 to make. Okay, etc., etc. Okay, if I only make one t-shirt, then it only costs me $3.40 plus $8,000 to make my t-shirts. The business sells shirts to stores for $9 each. So that's how much they're going to charge each person for a t-shirt. So here are your two equations. Y equals 8,000 plus $3.40 X, and Y equals 9X. These are the two things you're going to type into your calculator. So 8,000 plus $3.40 X, and you don't need that zero in there, but I'm going to put it in just for principal purposes. And Y equals 9X. So we're going to see where these two things cross at. Now, here's my y-intercept for this equation. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to make my y max big. So I got to make my window big just to see where I'm at. So my y max might have to be 10,000. I don't know. I'm just going to make it that big, and I'm going to go up by 1,000. Let's see how close we get. I might need to make my X max bigger. Let's go out to 200. Maybe they made 200 t-shirts. I don't know. So there's one equation. There's two equations. Looks like I got to go out plenty further on my x-axis. So let's go out to 1,000. Still got to go out further. Might even have to go up a little bit. I'm going to go out to 5,000. Hopefully this will take care of it. And I'm going to go up by 500 here on my X scale. Let's go to 20,000 on my Y max. Once again, we're making t-shirts. And here's where they intersect. It might take you several times to change your window. You never know. But you got to remember in this case, X is my number of t-shirts. So that's going to be a whole number. Y is going to be my money. So here's my break-even point. My break-even point is at 1,482 t-shirts made, and I'm going to make $13,220.72. X value, Y value. So this is my break-even point. If I make 1,482 t-shirts, my business is going to stay afloat. If I make less than 1,482 t-shirts, my business is going to be in jeopardy. I'm not making enough money to pay my workers and everything. If I go over this mark, 1,482 t-shirts, I'm gaining profit. I'm making myself a millionaire. This is what businesses do. This is what they strive for. Break-even point is a key thing you need to know to be a business person. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.